All right. There will be bourbon. There will be Dale Stark, America's favorite A10 pilot. How we doing, brother? There we go. Call signs up. Nice. How you doing tonight, man?
Doing good, man. How are you?
I am great. So as always, tonight's discussion will be fueled by America's native spirit, and in the I guess kind of in the honor of you, since you are up in the great state of Oregon, we're going to go with a little local product, little Oregon Spirit Distillers. They're from Bend. I don't know how close you are to there, or if you've been to this distillery or not, Dale. I don't know if you even drink anymore at this point, but you don't have to. You familiar with this distillery though?
No, I'm not.
No. Okay.
I haven't. I've been to Bend, but I haven't been
Yeah.
there.
Cool. It's right there. It's not that far from downtown. It's actually really cool. I went there actually in 2020, in February, and this was right before the world came crashing down. So it was a very interesting time. May or may not have caught something up there and brought it back to the state of California, but yeah, so that was a good time. So yeah, so that's what I got going on tonight. This is, I believe it's a straight American bourbon, so I think it's 4 years old. They don't really have the age statement on here, but the distillery's nice, very user friendly if you go in there and actually visit it. Great local dudes. Everything's done right there on the property. It's not a huge distillery, but they put out a good product, and they got a lot of different expressions now at this point. So that's what I will be getting down on. Did you ever used to have like a flask in your A10 that you flew? Like, do pilots do that?
Yeah, they issue you these little like G suit flasks. You're supposed to carry water in it though, not
Yeah,
alcohol.
yeah, of course. Um, so yeah, that's what's kind of interesting. So you've kind of got like two very interesting paths that you've kind of come to be known to people like myself on Twitter and kind of those that run in our extended, circle of trust. And one of them was, you were an A10 pilot before. And then you've retired. What, you've been retired about 2 years now, going on a year and a half, or kind of transitioned
A
out?
little, yeah, a little less than that. I was kind of going back and forth between being on active duty and setting this place up for the
Yeah.
last few months I was in, and then been out here for like a few months full time now.
Okay. Yeah. And that's the other thing that I want to have a really good conversation with you about is, I mean, I don't even know what you call it. Are you farming? Are you just got living off the land? Like you got everything going on. Are they llamas? Are they alpacas? What do you got going on there?
We got a couple llamas, a little bit of cattle, some ducks. Yeah, so we've got 58 acres.
58.
So
Wow.
yeah, so it's you can call it's kind of like that in between phase where it's not a full like ranch, if you will, but it's bigger than most the
Yeah.
homestead properties.
So
So
you're not quite the Yellowstone compound, but you're almost there. You've got the
yeah,
cabin and you've
exactly.
got the
We're
ducks.
working on it.
Yeah. So that's great. All right. So before we get into that, let's back it all the way up because I mean, I've seen enough of your posts over the years that you know, I think it seems like your path into the military is very similar to a lot of people. Didn't really have an eye of doing that. Wasn't really in the cards. What definitely wasn't plan A, like it wasn't for me. And you kind of came from, are you from Oregon? Is that where you grew up?
Yeah, I mean, we moved around a lot. So, by the time I graduated high school, we had lived in like 18 different
Oh,
houses.
wow.
So, a lot of moving, but I consider this home because I was
Yeah.
born here. This is like where I graduated high school, and most of my friends are here. So,
And
this is home, but there was a lot of moving in between.
yeah. And you were obviously into surfing like you were just about to do before you got on the
Mhm.
podcast, right? So I imagine surfing in the Pacific Ocean was a very interesting experience for you. Very different than the East Coast surfing cruise that I circled around in. I couldn't surf at all. So what was surfing for you as a kid?
My dad was a surfer. So, he just started taking me as soon as I could basically swim. So, and he's like more old school type of
Yeah.
training, if you will. So, he never taught me, like, he didn't specifically go out and give me instructions on here's how you surf. It was just like, you're old enough. If you want to go with me, you're welcome to. And
Yeah.
if you survive, then you'll probably be pretty
Even
good.
better, right?
Yeah. So he'd go surf with his buddies and I could go along with him. So just something I started doing at a pretty young age. And eventually, as soon as I had a license, started going all the time by myself. And just, when you're in the Air Force, I, wasn't really stationed on the coast much, but when I'd come home or take a trip to San Diego or Hawaii, I'd try to try to stay with it a little bit, but just something I kind of did off and on through the years since then.
So dad wasn't in the military at all, or was he before?
No,
No.
nope,
So
never served.
anybody in the family that kind of led you down this path? Like, what made you choose to go in, not just the Air Force, but what made you decide to go into the military?
Yeah, so I barely graduated high school. So I
Yeah.
was a terrible student, had no vision or focus or anything. I just, was just like a normal kid from a
Yep.
small town who had very little direction or goals or anything like that. So I get to that into high school phase, and I'm just kind of hanging out in my hometown, trying to figure out what to do next. I went to community college
Mhm.
for like a couple of years. So now I'm going to school, working part time. I was on like a wrestling scholarship. So try to balance all these things, and it really was not working for me. So um, my parents are more like old school. So it's like, all right, dude, you got to pay rent or get a job. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know what you're doing right now, but it's not cutting it. So figure it out. We'll help you if you need it, but you're not living here, kind of thing. So I was just out doing the kind of couch surfing. Um, sometimes I had this 79 Volvo station wagon with a futon in the back. I'd just crash at the beach. I was just like hitting that early adulthood and just start feeling the pressure of being a total loser. So
Yeah.
go, man, like
What year was this?
I graduated in 9.
90,
So
sorry, cut out a second. 99, you said?
yeah, I graduated
Okay.
high school in 97, and then
Oh, 97.
I hung around for another couple of years and then enlisted in 99.
Okay. So,
So yeah, basically just hit a brick wall, just
yeah.
dead end, nothing working for me. Felt like a total loser. And so started looking basically for a way to pull the handles and eject out of that situation, and started talking to recruiters. So I talked to the Marines, I talked to the Army, and I talked to the Air Force. And
In that
I was,
order?
yeah, really it
Yeah.
was. That's kind of funny. But
Yeah.
at first I was pretty convinced I wanted to join the Marines, be
Yeah.
one of the few, the proud.
Yeah, they're
You
they're
know,
great. They're great sellers. They really are.
yeah, I mean they look sharp, they're
Yeah.
badasses. You're like, man, that would be pretty cool to be a Marine. But then on the flip side, I'm such a loser at this point. I started thinking like, well, maybe I should try to like acquire a skill, something that could lead to a job on the outside once I get
Yeah.
out. And so kind of went through the, like I said, the different recruiters, talked to the Army a little bit, see what they had to offer, talked to the Air Force, and the guy there kind of keyed in on what I was interested in. And he's like, yeah, man, we can guarantee you an aircraft maintenance spot. You can do your 4-year enlistment, and then you'll be AMP qualified. You'll be able to go to an airline, whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah.
You'll have this, wonderful career in the Air Force and after you get out. So at that point, kind of the practical decision outweighed some of the other goals I had. So I just enlisted in the Air Force as a C-17 mechanic, and that's really where I started.
And so I picked up on what you said was the practical decision was the one that kind of weighed out for you. And so this 20 years old, give or take.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have that practical decision because I joined around the same age as you, but I was just a bonus. I'll take it. Let's go. Where we
Yeah.
going?
Send it.
Yeah, no, that's good. Okay, so um, so you're coming from a small town in Oregon. You said now you're in the Air Force. You ship off to, where does basic training for you? Where do they do that?
Lackland Air Force Base in San
Okay, so you're in
Antonio.
San Antonio. Okay, how was that for you?
So yeah,
You're
it
a
just was like
wrestler, so you were an athlete already. So I would imagine the physical stuff wasn't an issue, but
yeah, it was a good fit.
yeah,
I thought it was easy. How basic is, like
yeah,
everybody comes from everywhere.
yeah,
Um, doesn't really matter where you started, what your grades were, what kind of challenges you had before you got there, and everyone's basically on an even playing field. So it was just a good fit. The physical fitness stuff was a piece of cake
yeah.
coming out of 2 years of college wrestling,
Right.
and yeah, I enjoyed it. You know, in the military, everything's spelled out for you. So it's clear, like tasks laid before you and measurable standards.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of good at it, you know, good at the military,
Yeah.
like game, if you will. Like the
Yeah.
military
Yeah.
lifestyle suited me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
remember
think,
like,
go
oh,
ahead.
sorry, brother. I was just gonna say, I remember like getting my first paycheck as an E1, you know, and it's like
Yeah,
$400
I was gonna
every
say.
2 weeks or something. Yeah, and I felt like I was rich. I'm like, I don't have
Yeah.
to pay for housing, I don't have to pay for food, um, and I'm getting paid, you know, on the first and the 15th. This is like all bonus. I don't have any expenses,
Yeah.
and it was just like, wow, this is pretty cool.
So you didn't go buy the 30% Dodge Charger or whatever sports car that was available at the time. You kind of held on to the money a little bit.
Yeah, you know, I was like,
That's how
I'm
you have
gonna go
58
down that
acres now,
path.
right?
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. So okay. So obviously, I would assume, like you said, basic training probably wasn't much of a challenge for you physically. The mental side, again, if you're coming from a wrestling background, I don't assume that would have been that difficult for you once you get over it. Everyone has a little culture shock initially until they figure out what they're doing. So where'd you go to go learn your actual job? Where'd you learn that at?
Yeah, so tech schools in Wichita Falls, Texas.
Hmm. Okay, so you stayed in Texas.
Yeah, Shepherd Air Force Base. And I would say there's when like the first seed was planted towards possibly becoming a pilot, because
Yeah.
that's a pilot training base for the Air Force. So,
Okay.
you know, while I'm going through training there, I'm, you know, covered in grease and hydraulic fluid and looking up at these T-38s going like, okay, I'm down here. Like that looks way cooler than what I'm doing. Like
Yeah.
how did, you know, how did they get there? And, you know, I start just kind of thinking about that at that point.
Do a lot of guys go that path, or is that something that most just do the maintenance side and then they either get out or stick with that? Because I'll be honest, like especially coming from the recruiting side and starting to learn all these different programs, that's definitely something you would try to like. We'd get a lot of guys on the Army side of, come in as a helicopter pilot or a maintenance on the helicopters first, and then you can transition to the warrant or commission and become a pilot, which a lot of them do. And then, as you said, that kind of transfers over to the civilian side very easily. But most people don't know that or don't follow that path. So I was just curious from the Air Force side, do they get a lot of pilots from that side of it, or is that a little
I
conventional?
mean, it wasn't unheard of, but I wouldn't say it was very common, at
Yeah.
least in kind of my era. Like throughout my career, I maybe met a couple people that were prior enlisted.
Yeah.
Um, but usually it's through the academy or through an ROTC program.
So,
But
okay.
you
So
know,
go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say the opportunities are there, but there's such a like bureaucratic nightmare that I think a lot of people give up as they're pursuing
Yeah.
it
That,
because
that
it's
is
so
big.
much paperwork.
Yeah. Yeah, and back then it was paperwork. Now it's just actually digital, right? Where everything gets oh, I didn't open the email or something. But yeah. No, that's true because there's a lot of guys that I've come across with, and even in my own career where it's just there's people who don't want to do the work to do something like that for some people, or to do the work for another program specifically. And that kind of is very discouraging because of what's required. Sometimes just you have to have somebody willing to do the work. And it's not only just you that has to do your part. There's got to be someone to process that along the way to get you in front of the right people. And that sometimes can be kind of discouraging is a very like easy word to come to, but it's not just discouraging. It's a little demoralizing when you don't necessarily get, I guess, the response you're looking for, or maybe the initial answers that you're hoping to hear. And then you still realize, oh, well, I still got this contract I got to live out. Right. Because it's not like doing a normal job. If you want to leave, you just leave. You don't. You have to hold out whatever it is you were doing from a contract side. So with that being said, and you laying out how okay you were there doing the maintenance side and starting to actually see like, hey, maybe this is a path I could go into from the pilot side. How did you go about that transition?
Yeah, so finished tech school and then went on to Charleston, South Carolina, where they fly
Nice. That ain't bad.
C-17s.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good duty if you can get it. So yeah, I'm Charleston, and at that point, I just, like I said, kind of reverse engineered what it took to become a pilot. So all right, you need a 4-year degree. You need to score well in the standardized test. You need physical fitness standards. Um, you need your commander's recommendation. So, it's very clear the things that you need to make that happen. And so I started, taking classes and just doing things to make steps in that direction. So, I started doing some private flying to kind of up my aptitude score, if you will. Yeah. So, like I said, just looking at all the different components that took for that pilot application, and then started working to shore up those areas. So, going back to school, now being a little bit older, a little more experience under my belt, go from barely, graduating high school, doing terrible in community college, to now basically getting straight A's, because highly motivated, a little more mature, and just kind of start getting that bad background a little bit further in the rearview mirror and start stacking up good grades, good test scores, good overall application. And you start looking at like, hey man, I could actually be pretty competitive. This might be achievable if I keep going for it.
So you mentioned the C-17s in Charleston. So is that why, I'm guessing this is why, if anyone who's spent any time overseas, like every C-17, you see the South Carolina flag on the tail, right? Okay, because those were always my favorite. And it always seemed to be South Carolina C-17 that we'd be getting on or off of. What year is that you? So, because I'm just curious, because you joined pre 9/11, so a lot of the stuff post 9/11 was probably taking place for you. So I was just curious how that was from an Air Force side, because most guys we get on and talk to on here that are in the same age range as us, or whose careers kind of went pre and then post 9/11, it's always usually the Army side. So it's very different. So I was just curious how that was for you as a young maintenance dude, seeing 9/11, seeing kind of the shift from Afghanistan to Iraq. How'd that go?
Yeah, so I'm a young maintenance dude. In 2000, 2001, 2001, I put in my pilot training application.
Okay.
So I was only enlisted for a year and a half. And when I got picked up on an ROTC scholarship.
Okay.
So I was in Charleston for about a year. So I separated from active duty to go back to school to finish my degree under an ROTC program. And I was released in August of 2001. So
good time.
I watched 9/11 happen as a brand new student, like in the cafeteria in the morning, that morning.
So what did you think? Did you think you made the wrong decision at the time? Like, man, I could be in already doing something and getting ready to go. Or did you think like this might be more of where you should be?
No, I felt good about it because I was on a 2-year ROTC program, and our detachment commander was this like badass AC-130 guy who had a ton of experience for his era. Anytime the AC was like in a shooting war, he was a part of it, kind of guy. And he told us, he's like, this event will shape the rest of your lives. Like, this is not going to be a quick, a quick thing. And I don't know if I fully appreciated that at the time.
Yeah.
But I was just like, okay, like, here we go. Like, let's keep pushing forward on this and get through pilot training so we can start contributing.
So when did you finally start doing quote unquote contributing? Like, how did that go? Yeah. So obviously the aircraft and everything that you got into, how'd that go?
Yeah, so it's kind of a long path. I had 2 years to finish my degree doing ROTC. So I did that. And then I got a pilot slot, which again was my main goal out of there, and that worked out. So graduate, commission as a second lieutenant, off to pilot training in like 2003. And then you get put in the kind of like standby, waiting for a start date. So between delays and between courses and everything that, I do start, pilot training sometime around 2003, and then finish that in like 2005. And so that's when I, 2004, and then start training in the A-10 in 2005.
So how did you end up in an A-10? Because that doesn't seem like the most conventional of aircrafts, even though it's highly revered and people love it. But you don't meet,
Yeah.
not every day you see someone who was an A10 pilot, is my point.
Yeah. So when I was going through crew chief school, my instructor was an A10 crew chief. And
Okay.
so for the whole, time I was with him, he just told us war stories about the A10 in Desert Storm. So the A10 is a very simple aircraft to work on. So we worked on a lot in training. So, I'm sitting in the cockpit of this A10, decommissioned A10 aircraft that is being used for training.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing all these stories, and he's the way he's explaining, like describing the A10 community is like a bunch of rebellious bastards who the Air Force hates, but they're still awesome and get the mission done, and all the tanks they destroyed, and you're like young guy, and this is like jet fuel for your motivation. So I'm like, dude, that's what I want to do. I'm like,
Yeah.
I figure out a way to fly this jet. So go to pilot training, and quickly learn that you don't get to choose what you want to do. It's subject to the needs of the Air Force. So, and every level, every time you level up, the competition gets tougher. So
Yeah.
you start out in the ROTC, and a bunch of people apply for pilot training, and then maybe like 2 or 3 people get a pilot slot. So then you go to pilot training, and say you start with a class of like 30, 35 people. Well, at the end of the first 6 months, you get track select. So maybe in my era, it was like 5 or 6 would get tracked for fighter bomber, they called it. So either going to fly, F-16, F-15, A-10, or B-52, B-1. So
Okay.
go on to fighter bomber track, and now you're with like the 6 best guys in your class. And these are guys that, like, a lot of them are like star athletes,
Yeah.
number
Yeah.
one graduate from their their aerospace
Yeah.
engineering program.
Dudes you thought that you wouldn't be able to, you wouldn't be there with, right?
Yeah, you're like, how, like, where do they find these people? They're incredible.
Yeah.
And they have like, you're like a little bit of work-life balance, and they're
Yeah.
doing their studying, and then they're spending time with their friends and family, and you're like, all right, dude, that's not me. Like,
Mhm.
this is going to take like everything I have, like every ounce of my being, just to be like average amongst these people.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, I just keep pressing on. Uh, I had a terrible check ride at the beginning of T-38s. So I basically started the program in dead last. And like, out of 6 people, if you're dead last, you're not going to get
Yeah.
your number one choice. You're not going to get A-10. You're not going to get an F-15. You're likely going to get a bomber. You're going to get a B-52 or something. And at the time, I was young and immature, and I felt to myself that anything less than like my number one choice was a complete failure, and I didn't even want to do it. So,
Yeah.
put a ton of pressure on myself.
Mhm.
Kind of fought my way back from that early deficit, and then by the end, assignment night comes around, and my flight commander brings me up there, and he's like, dude, you're going, congratulations, you're going to fly the A10. And he's like, dude, you earned it. There was like no way we couldn't give you your number one choice. So off I went to go fly the Hog.
The Hog. So let me back up. What's a T-38? Is that like where you guys train on? Is that the training aircraft?
Yeah, so T-38, it's this like supersonic twin engine, 2-seat tandem seat jet. It's
Okay.
supersonic. It's got a tiny wing. It's really hard to fly, like,
Yeah.
especially coming from like a slow aircraft in primary training. And the next thing you know, like 6 flights in, you're sitting at the end of the runway in this supersonic aircraft by yourself, getting ready to solo. You're going how is this possible? Like, I'm pretty sure I can land. Like,
Yeah.
my instructor says I'm good to go, but I'm not 100% sure that I have this thing on, dialed in. So yeah, I mean, it was a tough program, but at the same time, it was a lot of fun.
Did you ever have any fear of the flying aspect when you started? Because it didn't sound like I know you started doing some small engine stuff before you got in this, but still, I mean, like, flying's not for everyone, right? It's just, and most
Yeah.
people don't like being on planes, period. So I can only imagine where like you're describing, hey, it's just you now at this point in a plane. You're the only one responsible for taking off and landing. I'm sure there's got to be some oh shit moments where you're like, all right, is this really what I want to do?
Yeah, dude, I wanted it so bad
Yeah.
because I go from this kid in Oregon who
Yeah.
pretty much everyone wrote off as just a screw up,
Yeah.
and then I start stacking these wins,
Yeah.
and now I'm getting all this positive feedback. Oh, I'm actually good at something,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
parents are proud of me. Like,
Yeah.
and so I mean, I thrived on that wanting to, achieve that goal. And
Yeah.
again, just like fear of being an abject loser. So, um, there's nothing that would have deterred me. Like if I got airsick, I probably would have just tried to hide it. Like, like I would have gone through anything. And I never really, I mean, I had a little bit of like, it was a little anxiousness when I'm like the first time getting ready to take off the T-38. But I'd say I never really had any fear of flying. Like I loved it. I mean, my first solo in the T-38 is very memorable. So we have like a 10,000-foot block of altitude in our working space. And
Okay.
I'm like, okay, dude, I want to see what this thing can do. Like, which is not what you're supposed to do. They're like, all right, dude.
So you are Maverick. We make all the jokes, and that's totally a Maverick move right there from Top Gun. Let's see what we can do with
They're,
this.
they're like, dude, whatever you do, don't do anything dumb, dangerous, or different. Just go do what we rehearsed,
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, let's see what this thing can do. So I get to the very bottom of the block. I'm like, okay, I got lots of altitude above me. Put it in full afterburner, get like as fast as I can go. Point the nose like straight to the sun, go full aileron deflection. So I'm like flying up in the sky, like doing aileron rolls in the vertical. I'm like, dude, this is so awesome. Like I'm like killing it right now. And then I look at my altimeter and I'm like 5,000 feet out the top of my altitude block. Like, so I'm like in like airline territory.
Oh my.
So I like, I rip the throttles back, bring the nose down. And now I realize that I'm screaming at the ground. And the T-38 has a massive turn radius because it has a giant wing
Okay.
and a massive turn radius. So now I'm like doing a maximum G turn as I come to the bottom of the airspace block. And I barely like level out at the bottom of my airspace now. And I'm like, oh damn, what just happened? Like I'm gonna get like ejected from this program. So now I like
Yeah.
set the throttles at 50%. I go to 30 degrees angle of bank and just do like a circle for the next like 45 minutes. Like the most benign sortie. I come back, no issues in the pattern, no issues landing, taxi back. And I'm like, I walk in the building and I'm looking around going, okay, like, does anybody know?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah. I was
this
gonna say someone
recorded?
had to know. I'm sure they know what you did. Like it's not.
It like, I don't know if they just, yeah, they purposely don't like monitor it. Maybe it's like pre the time when they could just watch you on this screen with a like, data
Oh, with
link and see
inside. Yeah.
the feedback. I'm like, didn't hear anything about it. Like, okay, press on to the next sortie. Like
Oh,
it never
wow.
happened.
Yeah, I was waiting for
So,
the Top Gun moment where it's I want some butts. Lined up outside the office. Wow,
yeah,
that
that's
is
funny,
wild.
man.
All right. So and then okay, so you managed to get your first choice, right? Was the A10. So then what's training like for that?
Yeah, so then off to Tucson, Arizona to start flying the hog. And what I had to figure out was I get to what felt like to me to the end of this journey. So, I suffered greatly through pilot training.
Yeah.
Probably the most stressful experience of my life up to that point. Um, and I get to the hog and I realize that like, oh, you don't know anything. Like you're barely good enough to uh, just know enough to start learning. So
Mhm.
you're basically, everyone at that point expects you know how to fly the airplane. You know how, you're supposed to fly it well. You get a few sorties at the beginning, and then it's on to like the tactical stuff. So it's just like trying to drink from the fire hose, as they say. And it
Yeah.
just, you think you're done and you've made it, and then you realize you haven't even began to, to start yet. And you continue on, and again, just start out at the bottom and start working your way up to be a qualified wingman.
Is this academic? You feel like you were expected to know that you didn't,
Uh,
or
what do you mean by
like,
that?
is that the challenge that you ran into? Is it like, it's a very, you said you were exhausted kind of, or just everything you went through, is that from the academic standpoint? Because it sounds like the
Um,
flying aspect you really enjoyed and had fun with, but everyone assumes like, oh, it's just flying, you go learn how to fly. Like, no, there's a lot of, books and stuff that goes into that as well. So was it to the academic stuff that maybe you just weren't prepared
it,
for, or?
I would say it's just all of it, like, because you can wash out a pilot training, you can wash out an A10 training in
Yeah.
3 bad flights. So you'll be trucking along just fine. You fail a ride. Next thing you know, you're on a reflight on that sortie. You fail that. Now you're doing a progress check with a squadron commander. And if you fail that, you're gone. So um,
Wow.
what I was alluding to at the end of pilot training is you finish pilot training and you know how to fly. You've got 250 hours and you've been flying. But everything you've learned up to that point is, you realize, it's just barely scratching the surface of what you need to know to be able to employ a weapon system.
Yeah.
So everyone assumes you can fly in formation, you can fly instruments, you can fly the jet really well, or else you wouldn't be there. You wouldn't have made it to the top of your class to get the aircraft you wanted in the first place.
Right.
So everyone there can fly, but it's just, now you're learning to employ a weapon system. So instead of just firing up the jet, turn on the GPS, it times in and off you go. Now it's turn on the jet, turn on the GPS, turning on all the different weapon systems, going through all the checks, all the, offensive and, all the defensive countermeasures. It's just so much more complex. And then now every sortie, you've got wingmen, you're flying in 2 ships, 4 ships. Soon you're flying coordinated attacks, dissimilar flights with, other weapon systems. So it's a lot, man. Like, and I think kind of what's a little bit discouraging at that point is you've got your pilot wings, you feel like you made it, and you realize that you're at the beginning of a very long journey of actually being competent at this new career field.
What are the weapons that are on the A10 that you learn?
It carries pretty much weapon in the inventory. So, the main weapon system is the gun, 30 millimeter. The GWOT Avenger carries almost 1,200 rounds. Fires at 70 rounds a second.
Jeez.
So, I mean, that's
that's a lot.
such an awesome weapon system. Yeah. So, that's kind of
that's
I
the
won't
bread
say
and
your
butter.
go-to, but
Yeah.
that's why you want to fly the A10. You want to shoot the big ass Gatling gun. But
But
then we've got 11 hard points, so you're carrying, just conventional bombs, GPS guided bombs, laser guided bombs, Maverick missiles, rockets, illumination flares. Like, just if you can, cluster bombs. Now they're dropping small diameter bombs. Like, pretty much if you can think of a conventional weapon, it's very likely that the A10 can employ it.
So I just did some quick like math real quick though. 70 rounds a second. I imagine that's gone pretty quickly. So how does that ever, did you ever run into any moments where you're like, oh shit, I have nothing left?
Oh yeah, it's called going Winchester. You like shoot the gun out,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's got, you like, in training sometimes, like, there's a rare circumstance when they'd say, okay, just shoot out the guns, like bring them back empty.
Yeah.
A lot of times in training, it's just like, hey, you're allocated 300 rounds for this sortie.
Okay.
And then, so you kind of orchestrate it how you need to get the effective training. But yeah, you get a good combat burst is literally like 2 to 3 seconds. Like
So
getting
it's same
200
as
rounds on
machine.
target.
Yeah. Do those things ever jam?
They do. It's very
Yeah.
rare, but I've
Yeah.
seen them jam before.
Oh, wow. Okay, man. All right. Okay. So what year was this when you finished, when you were 100% done, trained, ready to go deploy and go use your brand new A10? If there was
Yeah.
a new
So
one, I don't think there are
yeah,
any brand new ones.
yeah, no, 2006. So kind of into 2005, early
Okay.
2006, I
Surge
get
time.
stationed up in Fairbanks, Alaska.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun to think about. I could fit everything I owned at this point in my like single cab F-150. So like,
Yeah.
traveling
You weren't.
light,
Yeah. Not a lot of time to
good old
shop.
days. Yeah, exactly. So drive up to Fairbanks, Alaska from Tucson, Arizona in February of '06. And I get there and no one's there because they're all in
Already gone.
Afghanistan.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I'm trying to figure out if I can go. And so I talked to the commander, and first he says no. He's like, no, just sit tight. We'll be back, and you'll just get spun up when we get back. And then at this point, in 2006, I'm thinking, man, this might be my last chance, which is kind of funny to think about now. But you're
Oh
going,
yeah. Right.
if we wrap this thing up, I might never get a chance to
Yep.
uh,
Yeah.
to contribute. So I really wanted to go, and I remember kind of making a pitch to my commander that if he lets me go, I will bring a giant cooler full of like salmon and halibut and Alaska king crab, and I was like,
That's
and I
awesome.
tell them how I'm a new lieutenant, and they're halfway through the deployment. It could improve morale and just to have some
Just
new young energy
bullshitting
in the
your ass off. I
squadron.
love it.
Yeah, exactly. And so he thinks about it and he's like, all right, dude, like
Yeah.
get your
You
ass
fit
out
in.
here.
Yeah, you fit in.
We'll cut you some orders.
Yeah.
So they're like midway through the deployment and I just go start, scooping up all the halibut and salmon I can find, like deep freeze it. And just everywhere I would land on my way over there. Like I'm, in a hotel in Baltimore. Hey, do you guys have a walk-in freezer? So I refreeze it in
That's awesome.
Baltimore. Then I like go from there to Germany, same thing. Freeze
Oh
this for
man,
me.
that's
So I'm
hilarious.
like I'm refreezing it every
Yeah,
night.
every step
And
along the way.
yeah, and then I finally make it out to Bagram, just like you
Ah,
know, uh, after it's got my orders were funny because I didn't move with the squadron, so they're just
yeah.
like find
You-
your way to Bagram.
Yeah. So you're on
So
Disney, route Disney there, just trying to figure out where the hell to go.
you're like hitchhiking, taking the
Yeah.
longest route possible.
So okay. Well, you went to Alaska. How long were you in Alaska for?
I was in Alaska for like a couple years, like I
Okay.
want to say 2 years.
No, I meant before you got out to.
Oh, just a couple, like a very short time, just
Okay.
like a few weeks. I didn't even think I had an apartment at the time. I just
I was just
kind of did
wondering,
a quick
w-
turn out there.
was it winter, summer?
It was going into spring at this time. So yeah, I
Okay.
had to been there. Um, I was probably there like, a few weeks.
Okay. Yeah. So I just was curious how that shift for you going over to Bagram was. Heavy mountains. I'm not sure what time of year you got over there, whether the snow was still around or was coming or not. But yeah, that's definitely some crazy terrain.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think I got over there, I want to say April of that year
Okay.
by the time
In
I
the spring.
finally, well, yeah, so it had been a little bit, and just to kind of, how it is, get your orders
Yeah.
cut, get all your 9 mil training and all
Yeah.
your equipment issue and things like that. And then boom, go from cold Alaska
Yeah.
um, to Bagram.
Well, plus it's, I mean, totally foreign at that point too. You've never flown in Afghanistan. So what was the first mission or whatever it is you had to do? What was that like? Just being
Oh
in a
my gosh.
total foreign environment, let alone the new guy as well, who's with all these dudes who are in the middle of a deployment. Like, who's this new guy?
Oh, man, I like it's amazing they didn't send me home on my first day there. Like so so I
You had
I finally
halibut, so that makes sense.
yeah, well, so that went well. So I walk into the squadron. I'd been sleeping in different airfields and just kind
Yeah.
of, they're like, oh, the flight got slipped. 7 hours, that kind of deal. And
Yeah.
I walk in and I hadn't got a good night's sleep in like a week. I'm like pale, bloodshot eyes. I'm like, I made it. Here's your halibut and salmon. They're like, hey, new guy.
Hey, new
We'll
guy.
take that.
Yeah, but
And then and then they're like, hey, we got a task for you. And maintenance just finished up working this broke engine, and we need you to go do a maintenance engine run. And I'm like, well, I've never done that in an A10, but like I was a former maintainer. How hard could it be, right? So I'm half delirious from sleep deprivation at this point.
yeah.
I'm like, I probably had no, I should have just said, no, I can't do it, but I'm not going to do that on my first
Yeah,
day.
new guy. Yeah, you no choice.
Yeah. So I walk out to the jet. The crew chief looked like he was like 12 years old. He also had never done this particular maintenance check.
Yeah.
And so my first day in theater, and me and this inexperienced crew chief are going through the procedures for this particular check. So anyway, long story short is I didn't realize that he had grabbed the wrong checklist. And so he's running me through a maintenance check that is not intended to be accomplished while you are just sitting there and parking. So we get to this point and he reads out the checklist and he's like, hey dude, what I need you to do next is push the throttle full forward. And when it gets to this certain engine temperature, you're going to test the override, and you're going to turn that off and you're going to turn it on again. And you're going to see it like engage and disengage. So we're going to test this. And I'm thinking about it, I'm like, dude, that's a lot of thrust just for being parked here without the aircraft being chained. I go, are you sure? He's like, yeah, dude, it says it right here. And I'm like,
it's on the checklist. Of course.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. And we're going to do one throttle at a time, right? And I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's not too much thrust if I'm just real fast with it, So I like stand on the brakes, push the throttle up, and like the second the throttle spins up, the jet jumps the chocks and slides forward. It just starts sliding. Like the crew chief dives out of the way. I rip the throttles to idle and do like an abort procedure. Like I throttles to idle, deploy the speed brake, and just mash on the brakes. And now I'm like 15 feet out into a taxiway and I had been in theater for like 2 hours. So
fucking guy
almost killed the crew chief, who dove out of the way and saved his own life. So I'm like, all right, dude, we're done here. I have to call into ground control, and I don't even have a call sign because I wasn't intending to fly.
That was my next question is when does the call sign come?
Well, yeah, so you always get a call sign for doing something very stupid. Mm-hmm. This is how I got my.
It's like nicknames. You don't get to choose them; they get given to you.
Yeah, in the movies, you get to be like Iceman or Maverick.
Yeah, Maverick.
In real world, you get something that makes fun of you. So anyway, I request taxi back park. I'm like, all right, pal, we're done here because you can't keep going when you almost had a mishap. This is not looking good. So I walk in and I'm like, where's the commander? Like, I have to confess something. So I go meet the commander. I'm like, hey, sir, I'm the new guy. And oh, by the way, I almost like killed a crew chief and could have destroyed an A10 when I'd been in theater for like 2 hours. So we got there, he looks at the airplane, and anyhow, it ended up being okay. But he's like, okay, dude, you're going to fly with me for the rest of this deployment.
Oh, damn.
You're going to be on my wing. I think they're a little bit worried what they had on their hands there.
That's actually pretty cool though. Like the dude took you under and said, hey, he's going to take you out with him every time. That's kind of cool. I think like that's pretty cool. That's a leadership move. Guy. Yeah. That's a pretty cool leadership move.
Yeah. We're still friends to this day. Like that guy, his name is Q-Tip. He's like just an awesome dude.
Well, you didn't give us your name.
Okay. So that particular check in the checklist is they called it a chop check.
Okay.
And so since I porked up a chop check for the next 22 years, I was known as Pork Chop.
For the next 22 years. There it is. Pork Chop. Nice. That's good. That's actually not bad. You can do a
Yeah.
lot with
So
pork chop. You can do a lot with that. You can get creative with that. That's
yeah,
good.
for a couple of years, your buddies call you PC, and then a
See?
couple of years they call you just Chop. So it's evolved over
Porky.
the years.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's good. So what was so how okay, now you're there. I don't know how long you were there your first time, but what was like your first real mission?
Yeah. So flying the A10, not every mission is particularly eventful. So
Yeah.
that's what you're hoping for. You go out and say, your mission today is to provide armed overwatch for a convoy moving from
Mhm.
point A to point B. So maybe you go, quickly brief it up with a convoy commander when you check in, or
Yeah.
preferably on the ground, whatever it may be. You show up, you provide them overwatch, they get to where they're, you're out of time, you go home, and that's what you're hoping for. But I also remember, like it was yesterday, the first time you're just, out there doing your mission, you get the call on the radio, and it sounds like that 18-year-old voice, that guy with a rifle and a
Yeah.
radio, and you hear the gunfire, and you hear the kind of terror in his voice. You know, and the first time I responded to troops in contact, I just remember like my whole world sunk down to like tunnel vision. And then I feel this like physiological response, like increased heart rate,
Yeah.
kind of heart palpitations, a little bit of the sweat on your brow.
Go time.
And you're going like, oh shit, they're like dependent on us now.
Yeah.
And then I remember having that moment of like just a little bit of fear, going like, what do I do? Because it all comes at you at
Yeah.
once.
Yeah.
And it's never, in a cast fight, um, nothing's ever easy to figure out, because everyone has, feet, tracks, wheels, whatever it may be, and they're all trying to kill each other, and it's moving.
Mm.
Um, Dynamic environment, everything's moving at the same time. So, your job is to sort it all out. But I just, and I'm a wingman this time, and my job is to support my flight lead, who is solving the problem at this time.
Yeah.
So I just remember having that physiological response, the tunnel vision, and then I kind of snapped out of it. And that was probably literally a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
I remember thinking like, oh, I know like exactly what to do, because we've trained to this scenario a million times.
Yeah.
So, okay, like this seems like chaos. Well, what do we need to do? Well, we need to find out where he's at. Okay, let's get his coordinates. We got his call sign. Let's start getting pointed in that direction. Okay, let's calculate our fuel so we understand how much gas we're going to have when we get there, and so on. And you start prioritizing all the tasks you need, and then executing them and working down that list so you can go affect the fight in a positive way. Be a help and
Yeah.
not make things worse. So
Right.
yeah, so I just remember being out there and supporting my flight leads, and just being a young guy without a care in the world, flying A-10s in combat and thinking it was like the most badass thing ever.
Uh, you mentioned something, you trained on that scenario. I'm just curious how A10 training evolved, I would say, because, when I went to basic training in 2002, we were still doing, squad tactics from Vietnam era, and, very little urban combat and scenarios that had changed. So by the time I was a drill sergeant in 2009, where those dudes were learning way more advanced stuff than I ever did, and were way more trained. So did your training reflect what you guys were doing in Afghanistan at the time, or was it a lot of different era tactics from, you mentioned the Gulf War that one of your, trainers was. So how did your training carry over pretty accurately, I would say?
Yeah, I mean, by the time I was going through, we had been there. It was for like 4 years, 5 years. We had a couple years experience in Iraq.
Okay.
So that quickly made its way to the schoolhouse, and you start preparing for the scenario that you're actually going to see real world. So
Right.
there's nothing that can simulate like, people actually dying, people
Yeah.
getting hurt, getting casevaced. But you can rehearse it so many times that you know what your responsibilities are
Right.
in under almost any scenario. And you can understand when maybe the best thing you can do is just a show of force at 100 feet and spit out a bunch of flares and try to get the attention away from your guys and get it onto you. And because you don't have everything perfectly figured out at that time. So, you've rehearsed it enough to where you knew what you needed to do, what you needed to do to be effective, I'd say.
What's the most difficult part for you in that situation? Since you are in an aircraft, you're obviously not there on the ground. I don't know anything about like what your field of vision's like, what it is you're actually looking for on the ground. What are you seeing? Like, so what was always the biggest challenge for you? Because you mentioned everybody's moving, there's tracks, people are trying to hurt each other. So there's a lot of moving pieces. What's that like? Because you're moving at the same time as well. It's not like you get to stop and get out and, hey, oh, wait, hold on.
Yeah, there's no like one specific thing. It's just you can't put ordnance down if you don't understand the ground picture, and the ground picture is always changing.
Right.
So I would say you're trying to identify the target, which is the most important thing. Besides, you've got accurate target ID, you've got friendly situational awareness. You understand, if you fail in any one component, like things are going to go real bad. So you have to understand where the targets are. You have to understand what the threats are to you and the friendlies. You have to know where all the friendlies are. You have to understand all the aircraft in the stack, any artillery that may be coming through your stack. Like if there's any component of this picture that's not in place, you might be trying to help these guys, and then you have an air-to-air with like an MQ-1, and you yourself die or you destroy 2 airplanes. So it's just orchestrating, prioritize, execute all the required tasks, understanding where everybody is, what they're doing. There's things you can do to have that that confirmation between you and the ground guys. Mm-hmm. So it's just having a good understanding of your capabilities and going through the process, not getting rushed no matter what's happening. So you can go, affect the battlefield and help these guys and not make it worse. Yeah. So I'd say the hard part is just, being able to orchestrate all that's required while flying the airplane, monitoring your wingman, making sure that, again, you're helping and not hurting this situation.
Is communication difficult in these, or is it fairly fluid for you?
I mean, communication is always the biggest problem in CAS. Yeah. I mean, close air support is a giant comm exercise. So, we have technology that helps facilitate this confirmation that you need to go through, but you can't shortcut it because technology can fail. So you need these multiple layers of confirmation. So it's difficult. It's a new person. A lot of the times you're not talking to the same ground controller. Yeah. He's got a ground picture. So what he's seeing may not look at all like what you're seeing from the air. Yeah. Right. So as you get, you go through training, you have a basic knowledge of what you're supposed to do. Fast forward a decade, I'm back there and say like 2014, and you've done it so much that you are able to be the kind of calm, reassuring voice on the radio. You know what to say to get the information you need. You know what you need to do to get that 100% guaranteed confirmation. So when you do put down ordnance, it's going to go in the right place.
What was the longest you were out on like a single support or CAS or whatever you had to do?
I'd have to go look. I remember I want to say like 7 hours.
7 in the air?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. I didn't realize I could fly that long. That's fucking nuts.
Yeah. I mean, you go to the tanker. So you go in-flight refuel.
That's even that. anytime I never saw it physically, like being a part of it, but anytime you see videos like that, shit blows my mind. Like that we're able to do that. Like that's fucking nuts to me.
Yeah, not everybody has that capability, and I
Yeah.
mean, it just extends your ability to reach out and touch someone indefinitely. You
Yeah.
know, you just
But I mean, 7 hours, man. No bathroom breaks. What's like,
yeah. Well,
that's
I
another
didn't say
thing.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Carry a
another thing, man. Because I
carry
mean,
a
I
piddle
can't.
pack.
Yeah. Okay. So you get issued one of those, huh?
Oh yeah, I mean, you do want to get dehydrated up there. You're up in up at altitude,
Yeah.
high up in the atmosphere. You're in this bubble canopy, soaking up all that UV. So you have to stay hydrated to perform at a high level.
So you're
And so
drinking up there
yeah,
as well.
yeah. So
Yeah.
you're keeping the fluids coming in, and yeah, you got to carry a bunch of piddle packs on these long missions. There's just these little bags that have a powder in it that turn your piss into like jello so it doesn't spill everywhere.
Nice.
So
Pretty
yeah,
cool
you just
tech, man. Yeah, that's
when you
pretty
have
cool
a
tech.
second, you just take a moment and fill that up and
Take those
put
out
it to
hunting
start.
with you now, probably, I imagine. That's cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. That's again, that's just stuff that I don't think people think about. So 7 hours though. I mean, anybody doing anything for 7 hours, that's fatiguing, severely fatiguing, I would imagine. And most people aren't flying an aircraft. Um, you ever have any moments where you're like, oh shit, I'm fucking tired. Like this is getting bad.
Not really in the jet
Yeah.
because if you get extended, there's a reason why.
Okay.
And so in the airplane, I was happy to extend as long as they needed me. If you're like, crossing the pond, say you're in transit, you're with your buddies, and I never being in the jet never bothered me, but I did have a lot of issues throughout my career, just with like back and neck issues. Um, sitting in the jet,
Yeah.
your shoulders are rolled forward, your neck's kind of hunched down to have a really good view through the
Yeah.
heads-up display.
Mhm.
You're always wearing a helmet. By the end, it's something called the HIMIX, which is this. It's like a monocle, so you
Yeah.
can see like digital representations on the
That's crazy.
ground.
No, that's crazy.
Yeah, but in that thing weighs a couple pounds, and then at night you're flying with night vision goggles. So you've got all this weight on your head, and then
All
it's
the
like
time.
shooting forward
Yeah.
on your helmet, and then you're wearing it for hours, and you're looking through the hood. You're pulling G's when you're in a
Yeah.
turn. You're looking over your shoulder behind you, and so kind of the worst part of it for me was never while flying. It would be like the next day,
Yeah.
you get up and you're like, oh, I can't lace my boot today because my finger's numb and I can't, you know, I I I can't just can't get there. So I better call the flight doc, So after years of wrestling and then years
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
flying,
It's
a
great
few
on the
years in,
spine.
I started feeling was on the pain train for that, but still kind of was able to manage it and have a full career.
Was is flying at night as difficult as it sounds? Like to me, that just
Um,
because you mentioned night vision goggles and
it's
that looks
difficult
cool,
at
but when
first.
most people are just walking around with them on. Like there's a very big difference between like flying and
Yeah. Yeah, it can be difficult when you're learning, but like anything, the more you do it, the more
yeah.
comfortable you get with it, and then it becomes um, just like anything else. It becomes second nature. So I loved flying at night. I
Oh
like my
wow.
last deployment, I volunteered to stay on nights. Usually, you rotate through the shifts,
Yeah.
and because all the exciting stuff happened at night. That's when all the like task force missions happened. None of the
That's true.
brass
That
was
makes points. It's a good point.
Yeah, none of the brass was like on base. They're all asleep, so you could just come in, fly your mission, play
But
Xbox, watch a movie,
yeah, oh,
go
but
work
that's got to
out.
make. Did that make the situations harder for you though on the ground? Like when you're doing your actual, like your cast missions.
It's just I wouldn't say harder. It's just different. But you have different tools. So now you
Yeah,
have like IR illumination. You
that's
have
right. Yeah.
you have different, um, just a different kind of techniques and different
Yeah.
tools to kind of solve the problem when it's dark out. And there's a lot of advantages to it as well. So
Yeah, I would imagine. But that's just what just as me like being a layman, right, who doesn't fly, who's never flown and all that. The first thing I always think about, especially in Afghanistan, is if you're flying at night, like okay, terrain, mountains, those things, like that stuff, you know.
yeah, I remember being like, were you in Afghanistan?
Yeah, I think we
So
overlapped
like,
because I was there 13 and 14.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah, that's cool.
yeah,
Yeah, so I remember being at night. Like, remember like Fall Bright, like up kind of
yeah,
north of like
yep,
Nixon's Nose, we
yeah.
called it on the map. Like
Mhm.
those poor bastards were like always engaged up there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. They're
but
so
yeah, I
far away
remember,
from support. So
yeah, just we're out there, protecting the Afghan border. Um, it's
yep.
kind of ironic at this point, but yeah, I
Yeah,
remember
it's
being
better to
out
not think
there.
about it, man.
Oh, it's yeah, it's not good. But yeah, I remember being up there at night, getting pushed down, um, from the weather. So we're trying to support these guys. We're getting lower and lower and lower because it's giant cloud decks coming in. And next thing you know, me and my wingman are like feeling low altitude at night in this little valley, and there's
Yeah.
no way out of it until we just basically go instrument and climb up out of it. But yeah, I mean, night can definitely be dangerous because you could just fly into terrain unwittingly if you're not doing what you're supposed to do. So
Yeah. Different breed, man. Different fucking breed. That's great, man. So you ended up doing this 22 years?
yep. So from I had 22 years active duty by the time I retired.
Um, so what's that path like for you? So you're lieutenant, you go over there, you're the pilot doing all that cool stuff. And then progression, I imagine what you got out as a lieutenant colonel.
Yep.
Okay. Any more fun still being had at that point? Or is it all just
The fun gets less and less the higher up you get.
yeah.
I was always kind of a E4 mafia
Yeah,
slash
I can tell.
lieutenant at heart. So I never took myself too seriously.
Yeah.
Like when I was a lieutenant colonel and squadron commander, I'm like, my view was take care of the guys, they'll get the mission done, and I just need to make sure they get promoted, they get the awards they need,
Yeah.
kind of set the example. And uh, yeah, but I mean, you're spending so much time in the office, writing up awards packages,
Yeah.
performance reports, all that stuff that, yeah, it took a lot of the fun out of it.
So you obviously, you did the 20 before you retired. So I would assume like you had never had the intention of just seeing how far you can go up. You wanted to kind of do your 20 and get out. Was that always the plan?
I'd say I didn't really have a plan. Like
Yeah.
kind of mid-career, I really thought about getting out. I went and talked to my buddy in the guard out in Boise, Idaho,
Okay.
and I almost got out at that point. And then they offered me an assignment I wanted. So like, hey,
Yeah.
what if um, what if we let you go to Tucson? And I was like, well, that sounds cool. So I did that, and um, just ended up. I was like, I'm going to stay in as long as I'm still having fun. And so uh, by the end, I would say it just kind of it stopped being fun, and I was ready to go on to the
Yeah.
next phase.
Yeah.
The moves start to really take a toll on your family.
I'm at,
So
yeah. Yeah,
fast
we
forward, you
skipped
got
over all that.
kids.
So yeah, exactly. So now you're at a different stage of your life. So um all right, so that this is like perfect transition time for me. So now what is it? How did you and your wife get to this point? Where did this idea come from? Was this your idea, her idea? Both?
Yeah,
Seven
yeah.
Barrel
So
Ranch,
yeah, so
which would make a great bourbon name. I still contend someone needs to make
I
Seven
know,
Barrel
man.
Bourbon.
It would, huh? I'd do pretty well.
Yeah, let's talk. We'll
Um,
get there.
But so I'm approaching the end of my career now. So, fast forward 22 years, and
Yeah.
um, you look at COVID's unfolding now, and I'm just
That's kind of
I
when you
have
showed
this
up on Twitter, right? Like around that time.
little bit after that. I think
Yeah.
when I made my account in, like, I think the end of 2020, 2021
Yeah.
timeframe.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
didn't really start posting much for a while, but
Yeah.
yeah, we're just sitting there, and I'm looking at, what does my future hold here? Like, am I going to go down the normal path, which is go to the airlines, or go to corporate
Yeah.
America,
Yep.
go to like some, defense contractor, or, a think tank. And I just um, trying to figure out where, what kind of life do I want to live from here on out? Because up to that point, it just basically been a wild ride, and
Mhm.
I did a lot of it just based on momentum. So it's like, how it is. One
Yeah.
assignment leads to the next,
Yeah.
um, and then I'm at the point where I'm sitting in squadron command, and the application to go to STE comes out. So it's like senior developmental education. So it's where you
Okay.
go from
Yeah.
like lieutenant colonel to
Yeah.
full
Like
colonel.
Army War College for us, kind of. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So my Air War College, like, whatever, the in the zone
Yeah.
book for that is
Yeah.
out, and my commander sends it to me, and he's like, hey, like, fill out your preferences, yada yada. And I'm like looking at that, and that school is like 10 months, and then it has a 3-year service commitment after it.
Yeah.
And I just so it's like 10 months here, then I'll probably go to staff. This is just like assuming I pin on 06,
Yeah.
and then I'll wait for an 06 command, which could be a great assignment, or it could be like 1 year non-flying in CENTCOM, be like pushing paper. And I'm just realizing, like, man, I think my family's had enough. I think
Yeah.
I've had enough. And so that was kind of my decision point. And I just told him that I wasn't going to apply. I'm like, I'm not a volunteer. And so at that point, you basically just jump off the upward trajectory. And I just finished out my career out at Tucson at the schoolhouse. And yeah, I just finished up there. So while we're going through that process, we're looking at, like, I'm like, okay, well, I've been doing this pretty much my adult life. The normal path is to go to the airlines, go to the corporate world, and to me that just feels like soul crushing. Now, airlines are a great job. If I had started down that path when I was in my 20s,
Yeah.
uh, it would be awesome. But I didn't want to be the new co-pilot at 44 or whatever,
Yeah.
and be gone for Christmas and birthdays, and do that for 5 to 7 years until I fleet up to aircraft commander, and then start all over again.
Yeah.
So it
That
just
makes sense.
didn't appeal to me at my current age. And then kind of corporate America was just, what BS that is.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it just doesn't appeal to me. And so I started looking at, well, what kind of lifestyle do I want to live? And then let's reverse engineer that, and how can we get there? So, I grew up, I worked dairy farms, uh, worked outside, loved tree work, just kind of anything outside. And so just started looking at properties and things like that. And we just were super lucky that we found this place, which is just a couple miles from where I graduated high school and where my wife was born and raised. My parents are here and everything. And so just found this place when COVID had kind of frozen a lot of the real estate transactions. So I think
Yeah.
people were worried that it was going to be like total collapse.
Yeah.
So we got this place for a great deal, and started building it up as I'm, burning leave and jumping back and forth on every weekend and holiday and things like that, until I could kind of retire and get out here full time.
And because your wife, was she a professor or
Yeah.
She's got
So,
that chemistry thing. I know I've shared that with my daughter over the years. So yeah, appreciate your wife as
yeah,
well.
absolutely, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
my wife. So yeah, she went to Vanderbilt. Had a
Oh, okay. Yeah. So she's the smart one. Got it.
exactly. She has a chemistry degree. Hey, let me put the dogs out real
Yeah.
quick.
No, go ahead, man.
Hey, how's that? You go. So yeah, my wife had worked as a chemist for a good while. She was like tenured professor,
Hmm.
pretty smart cookie. And so, like we're both just not big spenders, if you will, if
Yeah.
you want to go down the kind of the finance discussion. But, I'd been in the Air Force for 22 years. She had worked for a good while. And we just, my total focus and everything was on kind of career and family. And so um, I had just kind of saved and invested my whole career, and she had done the same, before we got married, and then continued on after we were married. And so, I'm sitting here at like 44 going, hey, we have no debt. We bought this place free and clear. So we're going, um, well, I don't have to do any of that stuff if I don't want to. So let's just move out there, start, running cattle and doing the work, and just see how it goes.
How did you get into the cattle though? Like that, I mean, I think that's a really cool thing. I know a lot of people, I wouldn't say fantasize about that idea, but a lot of people is like, yeah, I could do that. But there's a big difference between talking about doing that and then realizing, oh shit, now I'm actually responsible for you know, like actual
Yeah,
cows and all that goes along with that. What was that like for you?
dude, it's awesome. It's like everything's a learning
Yeah.
process,
Yeah.
So I did a lot of stuff when I was a kid, but
Yeah.
kind of brain dumped a lot of that
Yeah.
throughout my career. And
Yeah, totally
so
different focus.
yeah, it's kind of a new passion, it's really cool to be able to produce like ultra healthy food for your
Yeah.
family, for your community. I mean, the you could go out and see the cattle. They're grazing. They eat what they're supposed to eat, which is
Yeah.
grass.
Grass.
They're not like pumped full of hormones and
Yeah.
soy and glyphosate or whatever else. And
Although
so
they do
you can
they're
just
pretty tasty with corn, I'm just saying. But yeah.
yeah, so it's like it's just cool. It's a really neat way to raise your kids. They learn
Yeah.
a lot of responsibility,
Yeah,
so
you really hurt people's feelings by having your kids do stuff like that. It's kind of funny the reaction you get online.
oh yeah, just massive triggering when
Yeah.
you don't want to participate.
Yeah. How does does I assume your wife knows that backlash? How does she deal with that?
Oh, it's funny. She's like my wife has like Facebook, and she
Okay.
like hardly checks it.
Yeah.
She's just like
Smart.
she's just like so involved with what she's doing. She does like all the gardening,
Yeah.
um, all the food prep. Like she's busy. She does the bulk of the homeschooling,
Yep.
and so she just thinks it's funny, and she thinks it's good to get the message out that hey, there's like an alternative way to do things. You don't necessarily have to um, like if you don't have great schools and or you're not happy with your public schools, there's an alternative way to do these
Yeah.
things.
And that's what I think is kind of that's why I bring it up because you just mentioned your wife went to Vanderbilt, right? Like it's not that education was clearly not important, right? Because I think a lot of people think, oh, you just don't take the education seriously. It's like, oh, well, actually, my wife went to Vanderbilt, chemistry major, like you said. Probably the exact opposite of most of these people who are getting offended by the fact of the way you choose to raise your kids and educate them. I just feel like that's kind of the funny nature of the backlash. It's like they think they're missing out on something because that's not what they experienced. Whereas I would argue they're getting a much better and well-rounded experience because most people didn't get that path, right? Like I didn't get that path. People that are outraged at that, they don't get that path. So they have no idea the benefit that your children are getting by getting to experience what you just brought up. The connection to nature, the connection to their food, their connection to learning how that goes and how that gets processed and how all that hard work goes into the community and the feeding aspect of it. That's if you reduce education to its core, wouldn't you assume more people would want that as opposed to what we're fed in public education right now?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know people who have great schools
Yeah.
um and there's great homeschool groups, and
Yep.
like homeschool looks so different uh than it did probably like 20 years ago, or like
100%.
when
Yeah.
we were kids.
100%. Yeah.
Um because we have like a cohort of, I don't even know how many kids now, say like
That's cool.
30 to 40
That's
kids.
cool.
They meet once a week. Then they do something else a lot of times, a little bit later in the week.
Yeah.
Kids are involved in theater, and they can do sports, um, and you just have so much more time to kind of connect with them, and to kind of teach them your values, and they're
Right.
getting what you believe, the parents, not what some like angry millennial believes. So
Has that been hard though from a like a state government standpoint? Have you been pushed back for that at all, or is Oregon
um
pretty easy to do
it,
this type of thing?
it's not too bad. There are like standardized testing requirements,
Yeah.
and you have to like declare that you're homeschooling, and then you have to submit your test scores. And like my oldest daughter had her first test in first grade, and like they rated her like reading comprehension at 10.5 grade level, and she's in
Oh
first
wow.
grade.
Oh shit.
So it's like okay, I think they're getting a pretty darn good
Yeah,
education.
like I feel like they're getting it. That's
Yeah, you just take a couple hours. It's like
yeah.
this core curriculum. You're learning like the classics.
Yeah.
You're learning math. You're learning science, and the rest of the time they're doing chores. They're playing. They're doing extracurricular activities,
Do,
and it works out.
do you think that the benefit to that is the one-on-one time when it comes to that stuff, where they're not in a big class and subject to how much attention the teacher can pay to them?
Oh, for sure, man. I mean, it's individualized. It's
Right.
basically one on one. So,
Yeah.
if you have a high achieving student, in this day and age, they're basically going to be bored and held back, and
Right.
they're going to
100%.
teach to
Yeah.
the lowest common denominator. That's
Yes.
not every school, but if you're in a public school and there's 30 kids or whatever the number is these days, it's just a resource limitation.
Hmm. Well, that's
So,
why I bring that up because, being out here in Virginia now, and I've got to go to, Jefferson's home in Monticello. I've gone to Mount Vernon to see Washington, and you see all these things these men did, like like Jefferson built he taught himself architecture and built his house. Like these are things they didn't do one thing. There wasn't a major. It's like they did whatever they felt like they needed to do or wanted to do from an education standpoint. They took the time to educate themselves largely. Um, and a lot of men did that back in that time, 300 years ago. You just learned stuff, whether it was law or medicine or the architecture like we bring up, farming, all the engineering, these things that people had to do or just needed to do in order to survive and kind of thrive in that environment. Um, People don't do that anymore. Everyone goes and chooses a fucking major or a singular path that they follow and focus on. And a lot of times it's probably not even the best one for them. They're doing something that they feel like it's going to be secure or maybe they can make a decent living at, but it's not a passion or it's not something that they truly are called to do. It's just what they're funneled into doing.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably a big part of why I've been enjoying being back here too,
Yeah.
is because whether you're a pilot, an officer, or whatever you're doing these days, it's a very in this modern economy, everything's very specialized and
Yep.
highly technical. So you kind of have your area of expertise, and then you subcontract everything else.
Everything
That's
else.
the
Yeah.
modern way. So
Mhm.
out here, if I did that, I would go broke and have to
Right.
go get a job. So
Ugh.
you're forced to learn how to do things.
Yeah.
So
Um,
yeah, like whether it's like, you know, building fences, repair, tree work, it's like, there are things that I have to hire out, but if I can do it by myself,
right.
I'm gonna try to
Yeah.
figure it out, learn it, and do it.
Um, why the llamas? They're big out
Llamas.
west. I used to see them a lot in California, Northern California, huge llama farms or alpaca farms. So why the llamas?
So the llamas were granted immunity because they were grandfathered into the property.
Okay.
So
So they were there.
yeah, the woman who sold me this place, she gave me a great deal, and she was something that was very important to her is that whoever bought the property would take care of the llamas. So
Okay. There
I
we are.
made a promise to do that, and I intend to follow through on it.
Do people eat llamas? Can you eat
No,
them? Can't eat
I
them?
don't think so.
Oh, because I
Llama
wondered that.
tacos.
Yeah, well, that'd be interesting. No, because like I said, like in, where I started out in Northern California, we'd always go up to Wheatland, to the Air Force Base there in Wheatland. What Beale Air Force Base there in Wheatland. And if you go a certain back way, you will go past several like alpaca and llama farms. And I used to like, what do they do with these things? Like I know there's
So from what I understand, they make really good livestock guardians.
okay.
So they will like protect their turf. So you can just throw them out with your sheep or goats, or if you have calves, and like mountain lion or black bear come
What?
around, they will like they'll go nuts and chase them off, and they make crazy noises.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how
Uh,
do they fight? They don't look like they'd be very.
I know they're very fierce.
Yeah, they look kind
I
of.
think I think they just posture
Yeah,
and scare everyone away with their
they look
yelling.
like an upside down cactus with no sticks in it. That's what they look. They look like cactuses that can move. It's kind of
Yeah, they're
they're
super
interesting
super
creatures.
odd. And then they're great pack animals too. So a
Okay.
lot of like backcountry hunters will use them, and they'll pack a bull elk out of the backcountry and not have to carry it themselves, kind of thing.
But you don't eat them.
Don't eat them, at least
No?
not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, everyone seems to have eaten everything else. You got people talking
I'm
about
sure you
eating
could eat them.
bears. Yeah, I mean, you got ostrich, jerky. Like, why not some alpaca jerky or something?
Things get real bad. Why not?
Yeah, I would assume, hey, if things get bad enough, they're gonna eat you if they could. Oh, I assume they're vegetarians. Maybe not. Yeah. So,
Herbivores.
yeah, herbivores, whatever they're called, vegans. So what's the plan now with the ranch? Like, do you have like a long-term goal here? Or you just kind of winging it each day as each problem comes up?
Yeah, so
Kids are still
something I'm trying.
young, so
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to take this phase of my life and live with like shorter term goals, kind of live in
yeah,
the moment, if you will. So, major problem with the military career is as soon as you get somewhere, it's like they almost 6 months later start talking about your next assignment, and so
yeah,
it's always in the back of your mind, like what's next? Where are they going to send me? Um, is my family going to like it? What are
yeah.
what's the community like? And you're always kind of looking forward a lot. And so what I'm trying to do now is just focus on what am I going to do today? What am I going to do next week? And I feel that if I do the work, make like a really high quality product, uh, that I provide this to my community, that
Yeah.
it'll just kind of grow organically, and it should work out.
All right. Last kind of transition and point, because again, as your platform's grown, you already know this. It comes with a lot of backlash, and it could be something incredibly innocuous, and it just takes on a life of its own. But one of the things that like I said, we've spent about the same amount of time in the military, so we've seen a very big shift to how it was when we came in to kind of where it was when you left. And we have this ongoing recruiting issue for every branch, right? It's not unique to the Army, even though they get the biggest headlines. Everyone has an issue. Um, but you said something, I don't know if it was a week or two ago about I guess it was something going on the House floor about illegals having a pathway to the military, right? Which the program's kind of always been there, but this is something different. I think that they're trying to talk about specifically to address the shortfall in recruiting. And I think what you said was they want a military of illegals that will follow orders without question. What does that mean? Do you think because of just the shortage that we have, we're getting to a point where we're not going to and this is something I brought up on the last one I did with the Huntsman guy, Ross Kelly. Do you think there's enough people willing to serve that are Americans in order to carry out foreign policy goals at this point? Or do we really have to start looking to the illegal immigration population to fill and backfill a lot of these shortages?
Yeah, it just seems like their focus is entirely in the wrong place.
Mm.
Where it's like, okay, well, why is it that the veterans of the wars of the last 20 years are telling their kids and everyone they knew not to serve?
It is
And
weird, right?
yeah, so instead of trying to maybe fix some of the structural issues that are driving that natural reaction based on the experience people have had, like, oh, well, we'll just go to this new underclass and offer them this carrot,
Yeah.
and we'll bring them in and instead, since Americans aren't willing to serve. So I just think that their perspective is entirely, their focus is entirely in the wrong place.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the fragile fabric I feel like at this point. I think just leaving the recruiting world and seeing the reluctance of a lot of the next generation to serve. Now, and I do make the point, I counter that with the point that I've never found an issue, no matter what state it was in, of finding someone who wants to go 18 series and that's all they want to go do, and hopefully they make it. Like there's a lot of dudes out there that you can still find to do that in any state. Found them all over in California. Never an issue with that. It's everyone else, and there's not a lot of like the world doesn't run on the 18 series, right? As much as a lot of people in our government like to think that they can just keep deploying soft forces as much as they want. That's not how this works. I think it is what you said, right? You have this group of veterans leaving, you know, very vocal about not wanting the next generation to serve their kids. They're not wanting them to do that, not encouraging their neighbors to do this either, or other family members. And you bring up, is this new underclass the way to backfill that? But man, that doesn't seem like you have a nation at that point, does it? That's like
Yeah, exactly.
that's not America.
Right. And it's like, oh, well, Americans don't want to go and like fight and die in Ukraine. So
Yeah.
we'll just find another group that's willing to do it. It's got late stage Roman Empire vibes all over it. It's like we've got big problems here at home, and we've got all this money and attention going all over the world, and we're not necessarily making everything better where we're
Mm.
deploying these resources either. It kind
Yeah.
of starts to look like a giant money grab. So,
Mm.
so I don't know how they're surprised that they have a recruiting crisis. People have
Yeah.
been screaming it from the rooftops for the last decade, saying, "Hey, man, like it's bad and it's getting worse, and you're going to see a collapse if you don't kind of reorient this ship." But they don't want to do that, so they'll just find, another group of people to fill that role, perhaps.
Do you have any, like, if you could push the magic Dale Stark button to kind of right the ship, is there anything you've thought about that could be done or should be?
Like specifically on the recruiting issue, or
Or
just
yeah, I mean, the recruiting issue kind of feeds into the bigger issues at large, right? Which is why there's that lack of trust from the population. And maybe it's the lack of accountability. Maybe it's just the fact that most Americans aren't asked to sacrifice anything anymore. Our country, from a population standpoint's pretty large, and comparatively, our military is pretty small. So you're asking a very small portion of people to actually have any sort of skin in the game to begin with. So I feel like most people, most Americans, they're just so far detached. They're just worried about their own lives every day. Like they're not really, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I mean, it'd be nice to hear like leaders, political leaders, uh, to say that when something comes up overseas, if they framed it as, well, what's the best for the American people in this case?
yeah,
Maybe if you felt like you had representatives that actually were looking out for the values of the American, or the well-being, and represented the values of the American people, and not um, you know foreign oligarchs,
yeah.
people would start feeling like they had a little bit more buy-in to the system.
Do you think we're gonna get that?
No.
No.
Short answer. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, maybe it'll have to get a lot worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe
No, I
that's
think
what
you're
I'll look
right,
at.
unfortunately. Yeah. It's um do you participate? Do you vote? Are you
I vote.
yeah. At
I
least you
mean,
do that.
yeah, it's the very least. Yeah, I vote definitely. But you're starting to think like, how much um, how much of an impact can you really make with voting? And it's kind of depressing, because it's like it's like the one-way ratchet, where no matter who gets elected, the culture, everything moves left continuously.
Hmm.
It moves left a little bit slower under Republicans, and then under Democrats it moves
Yeah.
left rapidly. So yeah, you're looking at the society that we've inherited, that we've lived in, and you're going, okay, is this what all the World War II vets sacrificed so much for? Is this the world that they wanted to see? Like,
Hmm.
are they happy with what we've done with that victory? You just the honest answer for most people is probably not.
Yeah.
So, it'd be nice. Um, maybe at some point, things will get so bad that they'll there'll be some sort of economic situation that just kind of forces a snap back to reality, and we can stop living in fantasy land.
You would think that's the natural reaction, right? Like pendulum always swings back another direction. Um, but you bring up the point that things are always moving left, either one way. They're faster than one way or the other, right? And yeah, I would argue that I don't think the Republicans have anyone's best interest at heart. It's
No.
just they go along to get along, and maybe things move a little slower than when the other party's in power. But yeah, and I've always argued that that's our biggest issue that we have in the country currently is we're beholden to this two-party system that people don't feel like they actually have legitimate options. Um, for Europe has a lot of flaws and a lot of faults, but I've always kind of respected the European Union with the fact that you have political parties that rise every 2 years. Sometimes they just change their name and they end up getting elected, but it gives people more of a voice. And I I really have thought for at least the last 10 years why we don't even give that even an option. Like anytime a third party candidate wants to run, no one considers them. They're instantly discounted, or they're not allowed to participate in debates or any of those things. Do you think we ever actually get to that part where we have a more inclusive kind of electorate and political parties that are more than just R's and D's?
I don't know, man. It's hard to say. It
Yeah.
seems like we're getting dumber, not smarter. So
Well, that's
it's
true. That is a very true point. Um,
so yeah, it's hard to see some sort of civic revival right
yeah.
now, but who knows? Like things, if you believe in like the cyclical view of history, we've seen this tiny little slice, which is our lives, and
Yeah.
who knows what's going to happen next. So I think the best thing we can do is be a positive force in our families, in our local communities,
Yeah.
get involved, try to make what you can control better, be a stand-up guy, if you will, or
Mm.
gal, um, and then what happens from there, is outside of your control. So I think we can focus on all these things, and you can get really depressed when you see the levels of corruption. You see a lot of the brass in the military
Yeah.
starting to look a lot like politicians in uniform, where um, they just get paid to say the party line, and if they say it with a smile, they move on to a board seat with a defense contractor, and everybody wins except for the American people. So um, but we can't control any of that. So um, I think the best thing we can do is focus on what we can control, and again, have a strong family, strong community from there. And then that's about the best you can do.
Would you be more concerned if you didn't take the path that you did, to where, so like I said, you're on your ranch, you have your local community that you work with, as opposed to someone who maybe feels like they don't have those options, right? Because they're stuck in a major city, and this is kind of like their vertical prison that they pay to live in, their $4,000 a month apartment, right? Your situation is obviously very different, I think, than from the local perspective, and from that angle. Would you think you'd feel differently if it was reversed, or do you think like these people really think that that's the best way to live? And whereas you're like, hey man, I'm just trying to gotta keep it. I gotta check on my cows in the morning. I don't got time to worry about all this other shit.
Yeah, dude. I mean, if you want to, if someone wants to live in the matrix,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
if they take the blue pill and live that life, then who am I to say they shouldn't? Um, but for me, it's kind of goes without question, without saying. It's like, it's just, we don't need a lot to really
Yeah,
thrive.
man.
It's like
Yeah.
food, water, shelter, community.
Mm.
Where's your power come from? So yeah, it's like in the short term, it's a good life. It teaches your kids responsibility. We talk about um, we talk about things that they experience that I think are really good for them. Like um, when an animal gets sick and dies, it's like they're exposed to these things. They go through the emotions, and so they're not just completely protected
Yeah.
from the real world. They get to
Yeah.
experience it in these little small scale. And so I truly believe what we're doing is really, really good for our family. I know it's true because I'm here and I live it and I
Yeah.
experience it, and I've seen the other side.
Yep.
And so what other people do, I can't control it. They're going to go their own path, and we're going to do what's best for us. And we're going to enjoy it. We're not doing anything out of fear or just worry of some imminent collapse. It's just building a healthy lifestyle. And so, yeah, we're just going to continue what we're doing. And it does make me feel good that, water comes from a mountain spring that runs right by my house.
That's
We just
cool, man.
collect it and gets pumped
That's
up to
really
the
cool.
faucets. Yeah, it's wonderful. And then, our food is growing in the greenhouse and in the garden boxes, and it's grazing grass right now. I mean, we could go like months without having to go to a grocery store. We essentially don't have to go to a
Nice,
grocery
man.
store.
That's
We
the
just get
life.
kind of luxury items like,
Yeah.
it's nice to have access to a grocery store to
Right.
get different spices and stuff, but
Yeah.
we don't need to go. Like, we have
Yeah.
everything we need out here. So
That's cool, man.
so
Fucking
yeah,
awesome.
so it does feel good. It feels like the proper way to live, at least for us. It's like, it grounds you to the natural world. You wake up, all the animals on the ranch wake up about 30 minutes before sunrise. So the rooster starts crowing. Everyone's, you know, ready to eat, ready to
Yeah.
move. And so, you do that, and then you get up early, you kind of get up with the sun. You're highly tuned in to your environment. So
Mm.
you're looking at the sun exposure, you're looking at the temperature, the rain, is the grass growing? All these things are just, I feel good uh, for the body and the soul. Uh, you go through your day, you get to the end of the day, you've worked hard, and it's early, you know, maybe 9 o'clock, and you lay down and you just crash because you're tired, and then you wake up and do it again the next day. So,
It's like being
you know,
deployed,
just
man.
exactly a little bit. Different people are trying to kill you.
Yeah, just alpacas and llamas and shit.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just, you know, it's just to me, it's a really nice way to live. I feel like it's a great blessing for my family.
Yeah,
And you know, that the food we eat is so much healthier than anything you could even buy at Whole
yeah,
Foods or anywhere
yeah,
else. Like,
yeah. I agree.
so it's really a privilege and a blessing. And you know, if I can kind of give some information or inspiration to anybody else that's thinking about doing it, then I'm
Yeah,
happy to do so. But I'm certainly not trying to convince anybody that they need to do
right.
what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. That's great, man. A great American story right there. Dale Stark, America's A10 pilot, and now America's favorite rancher, Seven Barrel Ranch. Appreciate you hanging out with me, brother.
Dude, thanks for inviting me. It's good talking with you.
Absolutely. All right, man. Let me hit this up.